Imagine owning a $2.9 million Pagani Zonda R or a $1.5 million Porsche 959, but immediately getting pulled over and arrested as soon as you take that bad boy out for a spin. If you've ever dreamed of cruising down the highway in your favorite supercar, this video should annoy the hell out of you because it's all about stupidly expensive cars that are illegal to own. If you ever run into the Agera RS in the wild, best believe that no one is taking that bad boy out for a spin. You'd probably see this $4.2 million supercar at car exhibitions and magazines, but you'd hardly ever see anyone whipping it around the corner in the US. To understand why this supercar was flat out deemed illegal, we have to take you back to where it all began. When a little Swedish car maker called KigSega decided to produce supercars in 1994, everyone laughed at them. Probably because they came out saying they were going to produce world-class sports cars, unlike anything we've ever seen. Big shots like Ferrari, Porsche, and McLaren didn't even pay any attention to the automaker because they were nobody. These guys had been in the car-making business for decades, and having a new guy with no experience saying they were going to make world-class sports cars felt like a funny joke. Even though the rest of the world thought it was one big joke, KigSega wasn't kidding. And after their first car hit the market, everyone knew how serious they were. With the KigSega CC8S, they forced the auto world to take them seriously and followed it up with other models like the CCX and CCXR. At this point, KigSega had gotten even titans like Ferrari to listen, and it all looked like nothing was going to stop them. That was until they released the KigSega Agera RS. The Agera was a stunning hypercar with a powerful twin-turbo V8 that let it go from 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. With performance like that, the Agera RS was the meanest car you'd ever come across in a lifetime, and it was instantly banned in certain countries like Japan, Australia, the United States, and the EU. Their reason for banning the Agera RS boiled down to emission and safety concerns, but if you ask me, they banned them because they were way too cool. Even though the KigSega Agera RS was a beauty to handle, it still doesn't come close to the joy of subscribing to the channel, so don't get left in the dirt. Imagine having a $2.9 million beast sitting in your garage, but you dare not take it for a spin down the road. That's the story of millionaires who bought the Pagani Zonda R. Considering the fact that there were 11 other Paganis in the Zonda lineup, it felt like bad luck buying the one car which ended up being illegal to drive on most roads. Despite looking like a supercar you could take for a grocery run, the Zonda R was track-focused, which meant it was closer to Formula One cars than the Toyota Prius your mom rides. If you're not convinced, you need to take a look at how this car eats up the track like a piece of cake.
Pull the lever, and it starts all over again. Go! Oh yeah, go! Go! Yes, go! Go, go, go!
When your car has a top speed of 375 kilometers per hour, 233 miles per hour, it was only a matter of time before a kid got behind the wheel for a joyride, so it got banned to hell. To really make sure this car wasn't treated like other supercars, which end up in horrific crashes, only 10 ever made it to customers, so that makes the probability of you seeing the Pagani Zonda R even much lower than anticipated. Even at the tracks where the Zonda R is supposed to shine, it also faced another problem. The car came equipped with a 6-liter Mercedes-Benz M120 V12 engine, which meant that it was almost as loud as a fighter jet. Most public racetracks charge you a crazy amount of money when your car is that loud. So at the end of the day, the Pagani Zonda R couldn't survive on public roads, and most tracks were out of the question. The Pagani Zonda R was a crazy car that was too powerful for its own good. But the next supercar was so lightweight it had to be banned. That's all thanks to Lamborghini's revolutionary manufacturing process, which gave birth to the Sesto Elemento. Before this stunning car, most supercars had portions of their build made from carbon fiber to get lightweight cars that held up at insane speeds. The execs at Lamborghini were done with releasing the same old car again and again. So they brought together a team of geniuses to do the impossible, and it led to the creation of the Sesto Elemento. It was the world's first ever car to have its body, wheels, suspension, and drive shafts all made out of carbon fiber. And it was the coolest looking Lambo ever made. Using that much carbon fiber wasn't just for show, because it made the car so light, your Toyota at home probably weighs more than it. With a lightweight supercar and the ability to go from 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, Lamborghini was looking at one of their most dangerous cars ever. That meant that this wasn't a regular Lambo, and it was all about getting the fastest speeds without much thought directed at safety. All it took to get the Sesto Elemento on the illegal list was the fact that it focused more on speed and agility. With its $3 million price tag, it's not hard to see why only 10 of this work of art ever got made. The Sesto Elemento was cool and all, but Ferrari did the impossible with this $2.6 million car, and it's more of a myth than a real car. That's all thanks to the fact that only a few people in the whole world were allowed to buy the Ferrari FXXK, so it's not like you're going to see this illegal car anytime soon.
But to own one of these, you had to be invited. And to be invited, you needed to be a very good customer.
Despite making some of the most badass cars known to man, Ferrari did a good job avoiding getting their cars banned from roads. That was until the Ferrari FXXK came along and tore it all down. When creating the FXXK, the only thing on the back of their minds was pushing the boundary of what was possible. Once a company starts focusing more on the possibilities and less on regulations, you know you're in for something special. At the end of the day, we got a hypercar that looked like it was designed by aliens and could produce over 1,000 horsepower. When you add its over 1,000 horsepower to the mix, you're looking at a racetrack car that never had any hope of being street legal. Nobody expected an illegal car from the Aston Martin brand in 2015, but the big shots behind the British automaker had other plans, and it was all about shocking the world. After all, what do you call a 7-liter naturally aspirated V12, which could produce 820 horsepower with a top speed of 208 miles per hour, or 335 kilometers per hour? While most people might call it a track-focused car, we call it a death machine with wheels. Aston Martin knew that their $2.3 million beat wasn't meant for drag racing on the streets. But it didn't help that it looked a lot like their other street-legal cars. People have tried to use this stunning car for trips to the park, but that's just inviting trouble, because you could end up in a lot of trouble. Compared to other cars in this video, the Nissan Skyline GTR R34 looks like a go-kart. While the other hypercars have a price range in the millions, the Nissan Skyline GTR R34 sits pretty with its $100,000 price. But don't let that fool you. It's an accident on wheels waiting to happen. For an easy 100K, you might want to compare it to a Honda, but that's the biggest mistake you could ever make. Despite being dirt cheap, this car would give a supercar of your choice a run for its money, with a top speed of 165 miles per hour or 266 kilometers per hour, and the ability to go from 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds. The Skyline GTR R34 was Japanese royalty that was a little too fast for other countries, so you just know they tried to keep it from ever being imported. The car's illegal status wasn't enough to keep it away from real car enthusiasts who needed to experience the beauty of the vehicle. Just like the Nissan Skyline, the TVR Saras wasn't a car you'd find on any list of the most expensive supercars ever made. But once you step behind those wheels, there was no going back. It was made during a time when looks weren't that important when it came to cars, so you just know it's one of the craziest English cars ever made. For $150,000, you were getting an endurance car with an insane amount of vents that it could only be used at racetracks. The Saras was as fast as it gets when it comes to racing for long hours, but it wasn't the safest car around, so the US had to step in to stop people from being this beauty. This leaves us with one of the most infamous illegal cars in the history of sports cars that only got allowed in the US due to Bill Gates. Gates was one of the first in line to get this amazing speed demon from Porsche, and as soon as he shipped it home from Europe, it was impounded on site. Despite its relaxed twin-turbo and being capable of completing a 0 to 60 run in just 3 seconds, the 959 did not meet regulations, and Bill Gates had to watch his car sit in lockup for years. Even though it took that long, Bill wasn't just going to abandon the car of his dreams, so he fought the government every step of the way. After a decade of work, Bill Gates finally got a loophole to get his Porsche 959 home, but it cost him way more than the $1.7 million he paid for it. That's a lot of time and money spent on one car. So maybe there's something Bill Gates isn't telling us.